my name is Valeria, and I'm 32 years old. I used to work as a graphic designer in Seattle, but 5 years ago I gave that up to care for my aging father after my mother died from lung cancer. My father's name is Robert. He lives in a spacious 5-room colonial mansion in Westchester that my mother inherited from her parents. It's a beautiful old house, full of memories from my childhood. I have 2 older siblings. My brother Ryan is 40 and works as a financial analyst at a hedge fund. My sister Madison is 38 and works as a pharmacist in Oregon. Both of them rarely visited our father after Mom died. They always cited busy schedules, important meetings, deadlines. The usual excuses people make when they don't want to deal with difficult things. When Mom got sick, I was the one who came home. I moved back from Seattle and started taking care of both of them. After she passed, I stayed. Dad needed me. He was lost without her, and someone had to make sure he ate properly, took his medications, and didn't just give up on life. My siblings didn't see it that way. Every time Ryan or Madison visited, which wasn't often, they'd make comments about my living situation. "You're living here at Dad's expense," Ryan would say, freeloading off him while we work. "You're wasting his savings," Madison would add. "Taking advantage of an old man." The truth was, I wasn't living off Dad at all. I had my own money. Years ago, I'd been smart with my investments. I had an account that generated monthly interest, enough to cover my expenses. But Ryan never wanted to hear that. "That's nothing," he'd say, dismissively. "Pocket change. You're still draining Dad's resources." They'd criticize every decision I made about Dad's care, but they never offered to help themselves. Never offered to take time off work, never suggested he come stay with them, never did anything except complain. My only ally in the family was Uncle Thomas, Dad's younger brother. He lived 3 hours away in Philadelphia, but he visited regularly. Uncle Thomas understood what I was doing. He'd praise me for sacrificing my career, for being there for Dad. Ryan and Madison hated when Uncle Thomas visited, saying they'd suddenly have other plans, or leave early. They couldn't stand his honest assessments of their behavior. 2 years ago, Dad's life changed. He met a woman named Deborah at the rehabilitation center where he was doing physical therapy for his hip. She was 45, a physiotherapist, attractive and charming. They hit it off immediately. Within 6 months, they were married. At first, I was happy for him. Deborah seemed perfect. She looked after Dad, made him laugh, brought life back into the house. For the first time since Mom died, Dad seemed genuinely happy. He smiled more, talked more, acted like his old self. But over time, Deborah's behavior changed. It started with small comments. She'd mention how much the house was worth. Talk about property values in the area. Wonder out loud what the market was like. Then came the hints about me moving out. Every night, after Dad went upstairs to his room, Deborah would find me in the kitchen or living room. "Don't you think it's time you got your own place?" she'd say. "A woman your age shouldn't be living with her parents." "I'm here to take care of Dad," I'd reply. "He has me now, he doesn't need you hovering over him. He's my father, I want to be here." She'd shake her head and walk away, but the comments kept coming. Night after night. Uncle Thomas noticed too. Whenever he visited, Deborah would suddenly have errands to run or appointments to keep. She'd be out of the house within an hour of his arrival. "That woman is up to something," Uncle Thomas told me once. I don't trust her. I wanted to believe he was wrong. I wanted to believe Deborah was good for Dad. But the signs kept adding up. About a month before Dad's 70th birthday, I noticed something strange. Ryan started visiting more often. Not to see Dad, really. He'd spend time in the study with Deborah, papers spread out on the desk. When I'd walk in, they'd quickly shuffle everything away, close folders, minimize computer screens. I started paying closer attention, watching them more carefully. And then I noticed something that made my blood run cold. One afternoon, I saw Deborah in the kitchen with Dad's medication bottles. She was swapping pills, taking out the ones prescribed by his doctor and replacing them with different ones. I didn't say anything, I just watched. Within a week, Dad changed. He became confused, sleepy, disoriented. He'd forget what day it was, he'd trail off mid-sentence, he'd stare at the wall for long periods. "Your father is getting worse," Deborah told me with fake concern. "He might need professional care soon." I knew what she was doing, I just needed proof. While she was out one day, I went to the medicine cabinet. I poured out some of the replacement pills into a small bag and hid them in my room. Evidence. Dad's birthday was approaching. I'd spent months planning it. Cooking his favorite dishes, creating a photo album with family memories. I wanted it to be special, but I had a feeling Deborah had different plans. One afternoon, Deborah went to the grocery store. She'd left her laptop open on the kitchen table. She used it for everything, including our shared household accounts. I needed to check something for the grocery budget. At least, that's what I told myself. I sat down at the laptop and opened the browser. That's when I saw the email tab was still open. Gmail. Deborah's personal account. I know I shouldn't have looked. But something made me click on it. The first thing I saw was a conversation thread between Deborah and Ryan. My stomach dropped as I started reading. The emails went back 3 years. Before Deborah even met my father, Ryan had written, "I found the perfect candidate, wealthy widower, owns valuable property, lonely since wife died, you know what to do." Deborah replied, "How do I meet him?" "I'll set it up. You work at that rehab center, I'll make sure he ends up there for his hip therapy." I scrolled down, my hands shaking. "Once you marry him, we work on the property transfer, make him sign over the house to you or put it in both names. Then we sell and split the proceeds." "What about his daughter? She lives there." "We'll handle her, she's weak, we'll push her out." There were dozens more emails, plans within plans, how Deborah would charm Dad, how Ryan would come around more often to seem supportive, how they'd make Dad seem incompetent so they could take control. And then I found it. The emails that confirmed what I'd suspected. "Miss you, baby, can't wait until this is over and we can be together. Soon, once we have the house money, we'll disappear, your wife will never know." Ryan and Deborah were lovers, had been for years. This whole thing was their scheme. I took screenshots of everything, sent them to my email, printed copies on the home printer. Then I heard Deborah's car in the driveway. I closed everything quickly, made sure the laptop looked untouched, and went to my room. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might explode. I had to tell Dad. I waited until Deborah was busy in the kitchen, then found him in the living room. It was late afternoon, and the sedatives hadn't fully taken effect yet. He was having one of his clearer moments. "Dad, I need to show you something." I showed him the printed emails. He read them slowly, his face changing from confusion to disbelief. "This can't be right," he said. "Deborah loves me. Ryan is my son." "Dad, look at the dates. They planned this before she even met you. Ryan introduced her to you on purpose." He shook his head. "No. You're misunderstanding, this must be about something else." He wouldn't believe it, couldn't believe it. His own son and his wife conspiring against him, it was too much. I needed backup. That night, I called Uncle Thomas. "You need to come here," I said. "It's urgent." He drove up the next morning. I showed him everything. The emails, the medication bottles, Dad's symptoms. He went pale as he read. "Dear God," he whispered. "Your brother is a monster. I need help, Dad won't believe me, and I don't know what to do legally." Uncle Thomas nodded slowly. "I know someone, a lawyer named Jason, he specializes in elder abuse cases. Let me call him." 2 days later, I met with Jason at his office. I brought everything, the emails, the pills I'd collected, notes about Dad's symptoms, records of Ryan's visits. Jason was in his 50s, gray-haired, with sharp eyes. He'd seen cases like this before. "This is textbook elder exploitation," he said. "But we need to be careful, they have momentum, and your brother is smart. We need to build an airtight case." "What do we do first?" "We need to establish your father's cognitive state without those medications. Get him evaluated by an independent doctor, prove he's competent when he's not being drugged." He gave me the name of Dr. Patel, a geriatric specialist who could do a cognitive assessment. Next, we need to protect your father legally, new power of attorney documents, medical directives, things that will supersede whatever Ryan has planned. How do I get Dad to sign those if he won't believe what's happening? Focus on his safety, tell him it's standard estate planning, protection for him and the house. He doesn't need to believe everything right now, he just needs to trust you enough to sign. What else? Jason leaned forward. Install hidden cameras in the common areas of the house, living room, kitchen, hallways. We need video evidence of what Deborah is doing, the medication switching, any verbal or physical abuse. Is that legal? It's your father's house, you have every right to monitor common areas for his safety. I left that meeting with a plan. The next week was a blur of careful moves. Dr. Patel came to the house when Deborah was out. He conducted a thorough cognitive assessment of Dad. His conclusion was clear. Dad's confusion was chemically induced. When not affected by the sedatives, he was fully capable of making his own decisions. I showed Dad the report. I told him that Deborah had been giving him the wrong medications, and that's why he'd been feeling so confused. I didn't mention the conspiracy again, just focused on his health. I want to protect you legally, I said. Just in case anything happens. Uncle Thomas and I should have medical power of attorney, and we should update your property documents so nothing can be done without multiple signatures. He resisted at first, but Uncle Thomas talked to him. Brother, your daughter is trying to protect you. Let her sign the papers, it costs you nothing and gives you security. Finally, Dad agreed. We met with Jason privately. Dad signed a medical power of attorney for Uncle Thomas and me. He signed a new limited power of attorney for all property matters, requiring 2 signatures for any transactions. He signed a statement saying he wished to remain in the family home. All legal, all binding, all superseding anything Ryan might have gotten him to sign while drugged. Then I installed the cameras, small, wireless devices hidden in plants, on bookshelves, in corners. They recorded everything in the common areas. I waited. 3 days later, I had what I needed. The cameras caught Deborah switching Dad's pills. They caught her on the phone with Ryan, discussing their plans. They caught her calling my father a stupid old wreck who can't even remember what day it is. And they caught her pushing him. He'd been slow getting up from his chair and she'd shoved him back down, hard. I watched the footage with shaking hands. Rage boiled inside me, but Jason had told me to wait, to be patient, to let them make their big move. Dad's birthday was in 3 days. I had a feeling that's when they'd strike. I was ready. Dad's 70th birthday arrived. I'd spent weeks preparing his favorite dishes, roast beef, garlic mashed potatoes, his mother's recipe for apple pie. I'd created a photo album with pictures from his whole life, memories of Mom, of us as kids, of happy times. The house was full of people. Ryan came with his wife Caroline, Madison came with her husband Andrew. Dad's old friends David and Susan were there. Uncle Thomas, of course, and then there was Brad. Deborah introduced him as a friend, but I knew better. He was a realtor. I'd seen his business card on her desk. Everyone gathered in the dining room. We ate, we laughed, we toasted Dad. He seemed happy but confused, the sedatives still clouding his mind. After dessert, Ryan stood up, he clinked his glass. Everyone, I have an announcement. The room went quiet. As you all know, Dad's health has been declining, he's been confused, forgetful. It's not safe for him to be alone in this big house anymore. Dad looked at Ryan with glazed eyes. So I've been working with Deborah to find a solution. Dad signed a power of attorney, giving me control of his affairs. We've decided to sell the house and move him into a nursing home where he can get proper care. Gasps around the room. David and Susan exchanged worried glances. Ryan turned to me with a smug smile. Valeria, pack your bags, you're going to have to find somewhere else to live. Your free ride is over, loser. Deborah beamed. Brad the realtor nodded approvingly. Madison looked shocked but said nothing. Her husband Andrew shifted uncomfortably. Uncle Thomas stood up immediately. Now wait just a minute. This is outrageous. You can't just sell Robert's house out from under him. I have legal authority, Ryan said coolly. The power of attorney gives me full control. This is elder abuse, plain and simple. This is family business, stay out of it, Uncle Thomas. They argued back and forth. Deborah jumped in, defending Ryan. Caroline sat quietly, looking confused. David and Susan whispered to each other. I slipped out of the room. I went to the hallway and called Jason. They made their move, I whispered. Announced they're selling the house and putting Dad in a nursing home. Perfect. I'm with Dr. Patel right now, we'll be there in 10 minutes. I went back to the living room. Uncle Thomas was still arguing, his face red with anger. Ryan was shouting about his legal rights. Deborah was crying crocodile tears about how hard she'd worked to care for Dad. Dad just sat there, confused by all the commotion. 10 minutes later, the doorbell rang. I opened the door. Jason stood there in his suit, briefcase in hand. Next to him was Dr. Patel, calm and professional. We walked into the living room together. Everyone stopped talking. Who are these people? Ryan demanded. I stepped forward. Everyone, I need you to listen carefully. What my brother just announced is not only immoral, it's also illegal. Ryan laughed. What are you talking about? Deborah has been systematically giving Dad sedatives without his knowledge. That's why he's been confused and disoriented. She's been creating artificial symptoms of dementia. Deborah's face went white. That's ridiculous, I would never. Jason spoke up. I'm Jason Mitchell, Valeria's attorney. We have video recordings from hidden cameras showing Mrs. Deborah switching Robert's medications. We also have pharmacy records confirming the substitution of prescribed drugs with sedatives. He opened his briefcase and pulled out folders. David and Susan leaned forward, interested. I pulled out my phone and turned it to face the room. And I have email correspondence between Ryan and Deborah dating back 3 years, before she even met Dad. Emails, where they discussed finding a victim with valuable real estate. Where Ryan identified Dad as a target, where they planned to have Deborah marry him, transfer the property, and sell it. Madison's jaw dropped. What? They'd been planning this for years, and there's something else. I looked at Caroline, Ryan's wife. I'm sorry to tell you this, but Ryan and Deborah have been lovers for years, it's all in the emails. Caroline's face went from pale to red. What did you say? This whole thing was their scheme: marry Dad, drug him, steal his house, and run off together. The room erupted. Everyone talking at once. Caroline was shouting at Ryan. Madison was staring at her brother in disbelief. David and Susan looked horrified. Uncle Thomas nodded grimly. This is lies. Deborah screamed. She made it all up. Dr. Patel stepped forward. Mr. Robert, with your permission, I'd like to take a blood sample to test for the presence of unprescribed medications in your system. Dad nodded slowly. Yes, do it. Dr. Patel took the sample quickly and professionally. Jason held up more papers. I also have here documentation of a medical power of attorney signed by Robert, naming Thomas and Valeria as his legal medical representatives. This supersedes any power of attorney Ryan claims to have. Ryan's face went pale. That's not possible. Dad signed papers for me. Papers signed while under the influence of drugs are not legally binding. Furthermore, Robert also signed documents requiring 2 signatures for any property transactions, and a sworn statement that he wishes to remain in his family home. The room fell silent. Deborah started sobbing, real tears this time. Fine, you want the truth. Ryan came to me 3 years ago with this plan. He said his father was rich, had a big house, and was lonely. He said we could take everything, we'd been together for years. His wife didn't know. I married Robert for the money and the house, that's it. Are you happy now? Caroline screamed at Ryan. Madison covered her mouth in shock. Sequence. Jason spoke calmly. I should also mention that we discovered Ryan has transferred $50,000 from his father's accounts to himself over the past year. That's financial exploitation of an elderly person. Dad finally spoke. His voice was loud and firm, clearer than it had been in months. Ryan, Deborah. Get out of my house, now. His words cut through the chaos. Everyone froze. Deborah grabbed her purse. This is your fault, she hissed at me as she passed. You ruined everything. She stormed out. Ryan stood his ground. This isn't over, I'll fight this, that power of attorney is still valid. Jason shook his head. I've already filed for an emergency protective order prohibiting any real estate transactions. Try anything, and you'll be arrested. Ryan's face twisted with rage. He grabbed his coat and left. Caroline followed him out, and through the window I saw them screaming at each other on the lawn. Madison stayed. She was crying. I'm so sorry, she said to Dad, then to me. I believed Ryan, I thought you were taking advantage of Dad, I'm so sorry. Dad reached out and took her hand. Brad the realtor quietly excused himself and left. David and Susan came over to Dad. We're so glad Valeria was here to protect you, Susan said. Uncle Thomas put his arm around me. You did it, sweetheart, you saved him. I looked at Dad. For the first time in weeks, his eyes looked clear, determined. Thank you, he said to me. Thank you for not giving up on me. I hugged him tight and finally let myself cry. 3 months passed after that birthday party. Dad's condition improved dramatically once we stopped the sedatives. Within 2 weeks, his confusion lifted, he was sharp again, alert, himself, the fog was gone. Dr. Patel's blood tests confirmed everything. High levels of sedatives in his system, medications that were never prescribed by his doctor. It was all the evidence the authorities needed. The prosecutor charged Deborah with abuse of an elderly person. She could have gone to prison for years, but she negotiated a plea deal. She got a suspended sentence, probation, and a permanent restraining order, keeping her away from Dad. The marriage was annulled due to fraud. Last I heard, she moved to Florida. Good riddance. Ryan's punishment was worse. He was charged with financial exploitation of an elderly person and conspiracy to take possession of property through fraud. The $50,000 he'd stolen from Dad's accounts was thoroughly documented. Between that and the emails proving the scheme, he had no defense. He lost his professional license. No more working as a financial analyst. His career was over. He also got a suspended sentence with probation. But the real blow came from Caroline. She filed for divorce immediately after the birthday party. She'd had no idea about his affair with Deborah or his scheme against his own father. She was disgusted. Her lawyers were aggressive. She demanded most of their assets, and given his criminal behavior, she was likely to get it. Ryan called me once, a month after everything happened. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail calling me names, blaming me for ruining his life. I deleted it without listening to the whole thing. Madison surprised me the most. She came back to Westchester with Andrew the week after the party. She sat down with me and Dad, and she apologized genuinely. I was wrong about you, she said to me. All those years, I thought you were taking advantage of Dad. Living off him. I believed what Ryan told me because it was easier than admitting I wasn't doing my part. I was never living off Dad. I said. I know that now. You sacrificed everything. Your career, your life in Seattle, your future, you did it for Dad. And I just criticized you from a distance. She started crying. Dad reached over and held her hand. After that, Madison and Andrew began visiting regularly. Every few weeks, they'd drive up from Oregon, we'd have dinner together, talk, actually be a family. She and I rebuilt our relationship slowly. She stopped seeing me as an inheritance hunter and started seeing me as her sister. Uncle Thomas kept coming too, of course. His visits were highlights now. We'd sit on the porch, drink coffee, and talk for hours. He'd bring pastries from his favorite Philadelphia bakery. I'm proud of you, he told me once. You saved your father's life. You fought for him when no one else would. I hired a part-time care assistant for Dad. A nice woman named Rosa who came 3 days a week. It gave me time to restart my career. I found a remote position as a graphic designer for a technology company. Good pay, flexible hours, meaningful work. For the first time in 5 years, I was designing again. And it felt amazing. 6 months after everything settled, Madison suggested something. We should take Dad to Hawaii. Remember how he always talked about proposing to Mom there? 45 years ago on that beach. Dad's eyes lit up when we told him. We flew out together, Dad, Madison and me, just the three of us. We stayed in a hotel overlooking the same beach where he'd proposed to Mom all those years ago. We walked on the sand. We ate at restaurants, we watched sunsets. Dad told us stories about Mom, about their early years, about how happy they'd been. She would be proud of you both, he said one evening. Especially you, Valeria, you're just like her, strong, loyal, willing to fight for what matters, I cried. Good tears this time. We came home to Westchester. To the colonial mansion that Mom had inherited from her parents, the house that almost got stolen from us. Now, Dad and I sit on the porch every evening. We watch the neighborhood, kids riding bikes, neighbors walking dogs, the sun setting behind the trees. The house is still our family refuge, full of memories, full of love, full of peace. I gave up my career 5 years ago to care for my father. I almost lost him to people who saw him as nothing more than a source of money, but I fought back. I protected him, and in doing so, I found my strength. My father is safe, my sister is back in my life. My brother is facing consequences for his actions, and I finally have a future again. That's my story, and I'm proud of how it ended.